Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Wine with Jimmy channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. And we are an educational channel here looking at all the WSET certificates in order to help you gain confidence to understand the subject, to, of course, be successful in your examinations. So in this one, we are looking at Italy for the WSET Level 3 certificate. And this is going to be looking at central Italy and that starting foundation part, climate, grape growing, and we're adding on the Tuscan coast onto this section. As always, if you do have any comments or questions or concerns, please do get in touch. You can comment on this video below the description, and please make sure you click the subscribe button. Otherwise, get in touch via the social media that you see at the bottom of every slide, or direct by our website, which is www.winewithjimmy.com. Please go over there. We have a wonderful e-learning portal where you can subscribe to the WSET level of your choice, and you'll get access to exclusive video content, revision sessions, multiple choice questions, short written answer questions and answers, plus a whole host of other things as well, including flashcards. Very useful to help you in your revisions and your quest for passing the Level 3 certificate. Okay, so let's begin with our look at central Italy. So we are on this section looking at the area mainly around Tuscany, but let's just have a look. So this part of Italy is most widely associated with the very famous grape variety Sangiovese. So this is the grape variety that produces Italy's most exported wine, which is the famous Chianti, and all associated Chiantis as well. So things like Chianti Classico, Chianti Rufina, Colli Senesi, and then all associated DOCGs and DOCs around that area. There is a lot more to this part of Italy than just Sangiovese, and we'll look into that on this section. We have things like wonderful, refreshing white wines, and then, of course, premium, full-bodied reds from those local varieties like Sangiovese, but also international grape varieties, such as Bordeaux varieties. They have a lot of success here as well. So here you are. Now, this is where we're looking at. This is the first part of the central Italy section. Italy, in your textbooks, is split into three: the north, the centre, and the south. And we are mainly looking here, of course, at the central Italian section, which incorporates areas such as Tuscany, Umbria, Lazio, Marche, and Abruzzo. So they're the areas we'll be focusing on throughout this series of presentations. Okay, so central Italy. The other two have been kind of shaded out there because we're just focusing on that middle section. So here you are. So we are located now south of the Po River Valley. That is just north of this map and empties into the Adriatic as a part of Emilia-Romagna on the border of Veneto. So that's to the north of this map. So we're to the south, and the major geographical feature here is what I have identified on the map. So it's dominated by the Apennines, which actually start off in Liguria and then come all the way through here, as we see on our map, kind of going through the spine, the center of Italy, and then heading to the south, all the way down to the bottom to Calabria, and in fact, a little bit of Sicily. So the Apennines is a very significant mountain range. It runs the entire length of the Italian peninsula. Okay, so grapes are planted in the hills and the valleys of that mountain range, because of course it dominates the landscape here. And that mountain range, the Apennines, provides altitude. And also we have a moderating effect from the mountains here, which gives a more moderated climate. So it actually mentions in your text that it's generally quite hot here, but where we find the vines, due to a bit of altitude and even some cooling breezes, I'll get to that in a second, we would classify this as a warm climate. It's close to being hot, but it's a region 4 on the Winkler scale, that's the degree days, and we would classify this as a warm. And of course, we're in the Mediterranean here, so a warm Mediterranean climate in this area. Coastal regions on both sides of this part of the Italian peninsula will benefit from cooling sea breezes. So up here in Marche, down here in Abruzzo, and then places like Lazio and Tuscany up here. So we have cooling sea breezes. So those areas, vineyards located on those coastal zones, will have an effect from those cooling sea breezes. Okay, so we're going to just have a quick look at Tuscany, first of all. So here we are. Tuscany is this area that has cities such as Pisa, Florence, and Siena within it, and they kind of form the central triangle of Tuscany. So Tuscany stretches down the western coast of central Italy, and it roughly can be divided into 3 areas. So I'm going to put the first one so we can see this. Let's do a big one. So we're going to do, let's do the shape here. Here you go, big red dot. The mountainous Chianti region is about here. Okay, so that's going into the Apennines and the hills and mountains. That's the mountainous Chianti area. Then I'm going to do in green the, in fact, I won't do it in, yeah, I will do, I'll do it in green. The southern hills and valleys are below that. That's down here. And then we have finally the flat coastal plain, which is kind of here and here. So it's all that coastal zone. So that's the flat coastal plain. So 3 areas that we're focusing on here. Now, Chianti will be covered in another video, as will the southern areas like Brunello do Montalcino and Vino Nobile di Montepulciano. So they'll be covered in future videos. The grape variety, though, across Tuscany by a country mile is Sangiovese. So it dominates, and it's the most prestigious grape variety here. It has very high levels of acidity and tannin. It's also late to ripen, so it needs the warmth of this climate. So it's well suited, and it's tolerant of drought, which may be an issue in areas as you go towards the hills within Chianti and the central hinterland areas. Oak is very commonly used with Sangiovese to soften the very aggressive high tannins that it can have through oxidation, and both small barrels and large barrels are used. Sangiovese's characteristics classically are plum and cherried notes, maybe some blackberry, and then with age, things like mushroom, amiti, and leather characteristics. So we're going to now just look at the Tuscan coast. So to reiterate, areas like Chianti and Brunello are covered in other videos, but this is going to be focusing just on the Tuscan coast in this example. The Tuscan coast is, of course, that part of Tuscany which is on the Ligurian Sea or the Mediterranean, and it's been identified here. There, let me get a little arrow out here for you. Arrow here. There's the city of Pisa. There's the city of Florence. There's the city of Siena. So its coastal area is south of Pisa and Livorno, and it's all this area going down here, and in fact below this map as well. And it's going to be cooled by sea breezes that I have identified here on the map. So you'll get cooling effects from those sea breezes. International black varieties are very important here, specifically Bordeaux black grape varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot, but we also find others like Syrah as well. Now, in this area, the Tuscan coast was the first to really witness the birth of what we call super Tuscans. The original super Tuscan was made from Cabernet Sauvignon, sold for a very premium price, and it was not eligible for PDO status because it wasn't following the rules of the PDO. So therefore, it was a normal, generic vino di tavola, a generic table wine, but it fetched exceptionally high prices. We can say that this is the birth of Super Tuscans, and this is kind of coinciding with the likes of Pierangelo Antinori with Tignanello, but also things like Sassicaia, for example, in Bulgari. And these Super Tuscans are important because a number of things arose from Super Tuscans being created. Now, the area was subject to very strict grape varieties, a list of grape varieties that they had to use. But with the success of these Super Tuscans, which were utilizing other international grape varieties, we find that the laws had to change within Tuscany. They had to accommodate these new varieties. And that's one of the reasons why we have a mixture of the other grape varieties allowed in things like Chianti, for example. We have mainly Sangiovese there, but we are allowed a certain percentage of other varieties, including these international varieties. Also, Super Tuscans, because they gained an international high reputation for these cult wines, it really helped re-establish Italy's reputation for excellence and put them once again firmly back on the premium wine map. Now, some will argue that it never really left. However, there are, of course, no doubts that it helped put it back on the top of the pedestal again. Many Tuscan producers, of course, looked at this example of making wines from international varieties as well as Italian varieties and blending them together, and they followed the example. You've got a picture here of something called Verrazzano Rosso, which is a Toscana IGT. Many are bottled as Toscana IGT, Indicazione Geografica Tipica, which is the whole area of Tuscany, of course, but allowing for much more flexibility with the grape varieties. But you've also got some very specific parts of the Tuscan coast, like Bulgari, which is actually classified as a DOC, which is a very high level of PDO. So there are some parts that actually hold very high classification. And let's have a look at it on the map here. So back to the coast. So in your textbooks, it mentions the Maremma Toscana. Now, I've actually shaded this out because it's not bolded in your textbook, but it's an area that allows for international varieties as well as local varieties, and it's the Maremma coast. That's the name of the coastal part of Toscana down here in the south. You can see where it says M-A-R-E-M here. So that goes all the way down there saying Maremma. But the key one here is Bulgari. So this is that area here, that yellow area. There is also Bulgari Sassicaia, which has its own DOC, but we're just talking about Bulgari here, which is very famous for Cabernet Sauvignon dominant wines. But you can have Merlot and Cabernet Franc even in the blend here as well for Bulgari, generic Bulgari. These wines are therefore quite similar to a Bordeaux, but placed here in Italy. So I often say Bulgari Bordeaux, both starts with BO, and it is a coastal area, just like Bordeaux would be. Of course, this is much more consistent and warmer, but still it makes those ripe, concentrated styles, which are like Bordeaux in a very, very warm vintage. Okay, so that brings me to the conclusion of this first part of the central section of Italy. I hope you found this useful as we looked at the kind of main structure of the landscape here and the climate, and then some areas around the Tuscan coast. There are many other videos coming up which will be available to you, but a lot of these are only available on my e-learning portal, and that is www.winewithjimmy.com. And you can find exclusive video content there, plus a whole host of other key bits of information like flashcards and tests and short written answer questions and all of those kind of things. If you do have any comments, questions or concerns, please do get in touch by commenting on this video, or get in touch via the social media channels if you're that way inclined, or by the website winewithjimmy.com. If you do find yourself in the wonderful city of London, here in Old Blighty, come and see us. As you know, I've got some wine schools and wine bars, so come and see me for a class, a glass, or a bottle. Thank you so much for your time. I've been Jimmy Smith. Cheers.